Welcome to Board Ghost, a story broadcast with games as the engine.
If living is a highway, then heaven is a bus stop. Been waiting for a minute there, or has it been forever? 'Cause dying don't agree with me.
We believe you're out there, hungry for stories for shared experience. We can't see you, can't hear you, yet we will play for you. This night's offering is a continuation of our game of For the Queen. We played one full game of For the Queen. We're going to figure out how to play a second game based on that game somehow. So that's going to be our challenge. We're going to hack it. Alex Roberts is the designer of this game. She's the same person who put out Starcrossed. This game is being published in 2019 by Evil Hat. Yeah, so we're going to put up a primer for this game when it gets published. So there may not be a primer up quite yet for it, but we'll let people know when it's published, and we may play it again when it comes out. If you want to stick around after the game, we'll have a little more of our interview with Alex, talking about the design of this game and her philosophy on gaming. So that was a great conversation, and we'll share more of that with you at the end of this episode. To help collaborate in making the show, go check us out on Patreon, patreon.com/boardghost. We'd really appreciate any support you're willing to give. And you can get access to episode art, episodes early as they get edited, and even some how to play videos, so you can learn how to play some of these games that we've got going. All right, so our humble players, myself, John Holt, with me.
Ken Breeze.
Tim Rodriguez.
Zelma.
All right.
Thanks
so
for returning.
welcome back. We left stuff in a really good place before.
Yeah, we sure
Everything's
did.
real
Yeah, we
happy and
did.
good. We've picked a new queen from amongst the queens. This isn't sort of in the basic rules.
Nope,
we're
just
so we're
hacking
kind
it.
of doing
We're
a little
just
bit of a
doing-
hack
We're
here.
hacking it. I have an idea.
Sure, pitch it.
Pitch it.
So the queen is dead. No, our
live
previous
the
queen
queen.
is dead. I'm thinking that this queen that we picked is maybe the queen of the queendom that we were traveling into, that we had just kind of gotten into before we got ambushed. Maybe she's going as like a gesture of goodwill to the evil kingdom that we just came from. Let's just call a spade a
Yeah,
spade.
let's call it.
And
Sinister,
Which
please.
it was
Sinister.
a Storm Kingdom.
Yeah.
Storm Kingdom. Ever
so-
dark, no sun.
yeah,
school.
the Storm Kingdom, the place with no sun, because they are now without a ruler.
I think that makes perfect sense that we're traveling there to make peace with the
Yeah.
Storm Kingdom.
Mhm. Yeah, or we don't know who rules.
Yeah,
there. But
yeah,
we
we're-
know that the war, as far as we know, might still be on,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
potentially.
We're hoping that we can maybe avert that.
Maybe she wants to go there and greet the new ruler and
Yeah.
see it. This is incredibly dangerous.
So I think we can still
probably
read
fine.
these prompts.
The land you live in has been at war for as long as you have been alive.
The Queen has decided to undertake a long and perilous journey to broker an alliance with a distant power.
The queen has chosen all of you and no one else to be her retinue and accompany her on this journey.
She chose you because she knows that you love her.
Do you want me to describe the queen like I did last
I
time?
Yes,
would
please.
love that.
This one, unlike our previous queen, is very well lit. She has a very open face. She's got eyebrows that seem to have some sympathy to them. She's got flowers in her hair, some hair sticks. Her design seems to be based on some Japanese looks. She's got a kimono on. She's got a dog, which instantly makes me like her a lot.
Cool.
And she's got a little bird on her, resting on her hand.
Oh, is it a dog?
And she's all in white.
I thought it was a fawn, but I might have been seeing that
That's
wrong.
That is
Let's
a
say
dog,
it's
Oh
my
yeah,
friend.
no, that's
Let's say
definitely a
it's
dog.
fawn.
I was looking
It's a
quickly.
dog named Fawn.
Dog named
It's
Fawn.
a dog named Fawn.
Aw.
Oh, that's cute.
Aw.
Oh,
We're already world
what's the
building.
bird named?
Already world building.
Nugget.
Nugget. Yes.
Love it.
Fawn and Nugget.
Fawn and
Fawn
Nugget.
and Nugget.
Yeah, so
royal pets.
she's already very different.
I'm going to go first. How about that?
Mhm.
Yeah.
The queen is not your queen. Why do you serve her anyway? I am a noble from the Storm Kingdom, and I have traveled to put my political weight behind this queen because I believe that this queen will bring an end to the war.
What did you bring with you to protect the Queen? I'm so half inclined to play fawn right now. I think that I might do that. I brought my teeth
Yes.
and I brought my strength and my raw speed
And so much love.
and all of my love.
You do love her.
I do love her and I keep her feet warm. She has very cold feet.
What do you do for the queen that anyone else can do, and why does she make you do it? I am her cousin, her male cousin. I'm a bit of a bastard, and I'm kind of a snobby, or I was before her influence. I was this sort of snobby, arrogant, shallow kind of a prick, very into myself and into my own looks and my own fashion, kind of a shitty fop. I'm still a fop, but less shitty, much less shitty. She makes me do some of the drudge work. She started this when I first came to her, when I was a young teen, and it was her way of showing me that we, as nobility, as royalty, are not better than anyone else. We're not better than the people who clean our sheets. We're not better than the people who hunt our food for us or prepare our food for us. So on this trip in particular, I'm doing a lot of the cooking, and I've actually gotten pretty good at it.
What do you do to disappoint the queen on this journey? I have been tasked with protecting the queen. I keep my sword polished. I keep my armor polished. I keep my ladies at arms, that I am the captain over, sharp and ready. I was impatient with a traveler on the road who did not turn away for our retinue. I shoved them into the mud, and our queen stepped out of the carriage into the mud herself to pull this person up, and turned on me and shamed me in front of the other women of whom I'm the head of the guard, my charges.
When was the last time the queen showed you real kindness? For my character, the reason they came to this kingdom of flowers, perhaps, there are many flowers behind this queen as well on the walls, flowers in her hair. Rose Kingdom, Kingdom of Flowers. Because kindness was important to me. And I think that is why, though my holdings are small and my army's ill-equipped, I have come here to throw my weight behind this queen because her kindness is clear to see. But when was the last time she showed me real kindness? And I think she just does that every day. This morning, like when we woke up.
Simple
like,
kindness.
Yeah, she's a very kind person in general.
You sometimes think you might be the queen's favorite. Why? And why does this worry you? I'm the only one who she scratches behind the ears, which is the best. But I worry that others will not leap to her defense if they sense danger, because they do not get ear scratches. They don't get treats. They're spoken to, which is very nice and all, but I have never heard her once call anybody else good doggy.
There is a fake rumor about you and the queen back at the royal court. What is it, and how did it start? There are rumors that I am actually her brother and not her cousin, and that therefore, as a male heir, I should be king. I'm not. It started because we went through schooling together. She doesn't like me saying stuff like this, but peasants can be very simple. If they see us around together a lot, they're prone to make all sorts of silly assumptions. But no, I am in fact her cousin. I am her mother's sister's son, so not very close to the crown at all, as it were. That's the rumor. And
is there a resemblance? Is there
Oh,
a
yes,
strong
we look
resemblance?
absolutely like our mothers were twins. And there's a great resemblance there.
The queen is responsible for the death of someone you loved. Who? What happened? When she was a child, when I was first brought to the guard and by the queen mother, tasked fresh from the academy as a lady at arms, I knew the first nugget, the young queen's first bird. She was but a child. She did not know how to care for this creature, so I took it upon myself. I trained it. I taught it tricks. I taught it how to talk, little simple words. in her excitement and joy over some of the new tricks, she took it and squeezed it just too hard.
Oh.
The next day, she was crying because Nugget wasn't up and doing tricks. And that's when we got the next Nugget.
Did she learn what death was? Did anyone tell
we,
her?
We hid for a little bit. She
Oh.
didn't know how many nuggets she had.
No.
You saw the queen do something terrible to keep the retinue safe. What was it? Did you come to respect her more or less afterward? I witnessed the queen using her royal power to command the food of a passing family, that we had run out and that we're close to the border, and this family was coming by, and it was very clear that they were peasantry and probably subsistence living, and the queen used her authority to take their food. It was obvious that it would have an effect on them not having this. I came to respect her more afterwards, for sure, because that's the type of behavior that is rewarded in the Storm Kingdom. But afterwards, I saw how hurt it made her.
And how she starved herself.
Oh, yeah,
Oh,
John.
yeah.
Preach, baby.
Yep.
Preach.
You suspect this journey isn't just about diplomatic negotiations. What else do you believe is going on, and why?
Dog.
I can smell the subtle changes in mood,
Oh, yes.
and I can tell if somebody is about to attack, when somebody is prepared to compromise. All of these things, what else do you believe is going on, and why? I suspect part of it's for my benefit, because I very much like walkies. This is a very important thing. But there's a tension in the air that I know my queen is afraid going into this. It is important for me to be by her side. She is afraid, but she is sturdy. She is committed, and she is powerful. Also, the smells are fascinating as we get closer to the border, and it might be that she just wants a different kind of food.
You saved the queen's life once. How? I'm about 7 or 8 years younger than her, so there's quite a bit of a mentorship thing going on. She has done a lot more of the protecting rather than the other way around. I can shoot a bow and arrow pretty well. I can sword fight proficiently, but if I were to get into a bar fight, I would definitely lose. I saved her life once by stealing her piece of cake. Someone had poisoned it. I became extremely ill. I didn't get as ill as she would have because there was something, they suspect that there was some sort of targeted magic. I got very ill because I was of royal blood, but the power wasn't quite the same because I didn't have the same power that she has. It still affected me quite badly. I did not die, but it certainly would have killed her. The cake was delicious and it was absolutely worth it.
It's funny, that was also going to be my answer for that card.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
What part of this journey will be the most difficult? How do you pull the rest of the retinue through it? Passing the border into darkness will be the hardest thing. We are people of the light. We are people who know our fresh air, and when the sour winds blow from the kingdom of storms, and when the new storms started to rise before we left on our journey, there was something heavy in the air that weighed on those. You could see it in their face that it would weigh on them. And so as we get closer and closer to this border, everyone's dragging their feet, their heads are heavy, their backs are bowed, and I need to stand up straight, and I need to make sure that I am polished and reflect as much light as possible onto everyone and maintain order and cheer and bolster everyone's spirit. So that's what I do, especially as we get closer and closer to edges and maybe even passing into the heart of this kingdom, I take it upon myself to fight against that burden and bolster as many as I can around me.
Stop me if this is stepping on your character's
No.
toes too much, but I kind of picture this like women soldier group as having like traditional songs that they sing,
Mhm.
like the way that sailors sing sea shanties,
Yeah.
but like they have like these like fighting songs and there's harmony, and so you have these like women's voices just soaring.
Yeah. They ring their swords on their chest that
Ooh.
like vibrates with a certain tonality. Their swords are built to like
Like a
ring
tuning
with like
fork?
like a
Mm.
and different ranks have different tones.
Nice.
So their armor like it's like clear bells too. So not only is there reflections of light, but like reflections of joyous sound that
Awesome.
ring around
So
them.
good.
What is something you do for the royal family that has prepared you well for this journey? My character is taking on that major domo sort of role,
An
like
ambassador.
ambassador is a good way to think of it as well. Yeah, I am acting as the person who will, this is the route we should take into this land, and these are the people that we should meet, and these are the places we should go. I'm acting, in sort of this counselor, conciliatory, sagacious, if you will, role. That has prepared me very well for this journey because we're heading to a place that I know a lot about.
You are considered beautiful by almost everyone you meet. How does the queen make you question that perception? When I accept handouts from younger members of the court, I always take them back, offer them under my queen's feet as a gift, which is then my job to taste. And that is always when I'm scolded, when I'm trying to do nice things, when I'm trying to serve my queen. Nobody else scolds me like this. She never says that I'm bad, but I know it in my heart.
The queen knows something about you that no one else does. What is it? I've really started enjoying this whole cooking thing. I want to be a chef. It's not fashionable to have a job, but I really would like to open a restaurant. I especially love making pastries. I want to be a patissier. I want to invent new ways of eating delicious sweets, and I want to share it with people. That's all I want. But I have responsibilities, and I must be a good noble. So she's the only one that I've told.
She caught you humming in the kitchen.
Yeah.
When did you know you were in love with the queen? She was a child when I first came into her service directly. Our relationship is that of like an older sister or an aunt as far as I see it. And it was when an incursion into the palace occurred and I was called along with the other ladies at arms, and she was hurried away with the captain of the Queen Mother's Guard and into safety. And I was called away from her. That she cried for me and called my name as I sat in the camp beneath the walls after having my wounds bandaged. She came to me and cried in my arms.
Why are some of others at the royal court jealous of your relationship with the queen? I think that the queen and I are actually forming a romantic relationship. That was not something that I thought was going to happen. That's why they're jealous, is that there's a genuine, at least it seems that the kindness that she is showing me is beyond her normal levels of kindness. What at first may have seemed simply an infatuation with someone foreign and different and from a different life and with a different way of thinking about things, this is now perhaps turned into something of mutual interest.
The queen trusts you, but no one else in the royal court does. Why? When we're alone, the queen tells me her secrets, knowing that there is no way they will ever come to anybody else,
Because you're a good boy.
because I'm the best dog. No one else in the royal court does. I attempt to show my affections, but things about drool and slobber and hair, normal things, seem to perturb them, and they try to avoid my attention. The younger ones sometimes, but they're not really in the court proper. The smell is wrong.
Mm.
You can tell.
What do you do that pleases the queen on this journey? So just as we're about to cross the border, it's been getting darker and darker. And I'm not a coward. I never have been a coward. I'm cautious. I always make sure to know all the information necessary before embarking on anything. It's why I like baking. There is a right way and there's a wrong way, and if you do it wrong, you know that you've done it wrong. That has sometimes looked like cowardice to people who don't know better. She has been understanding and encouraging. As we set out to cross the border, we had permission granted before, but for some reason, as we were about to cross, we were bullied in a way. They refused to speak to the captain of the guard because she didn't have enough authority, and we certainly weren't going to let them talk to the queen. So I stepped forward, and I comported myself quite well, if I may say so myself. I spoke on behalf of the queen with strength of character and with fortitude, and I even managed to sneak in a snide comment here and there without it getting too bad that it irritated them to the point that they wouldn't let us through, but I got us through the border.
You were summoned to a private meeting with the queen once. Why did you feel disappointed afterward? The attacks from the Storm Kingdom to the northwest, the incursions from the sea, from our southern borders. We are a kingdom under siege. Yes, we are prosperous, our crops are bountiful, there is a general happiness in the land, but this is tenuous. And I was making this known to the captain of the military, to the generals, and the queen called me in and told me to stop this. That she would be making these decisions, and that sowing doubt and dissent amongst her military was not my place. To trust the happiness that the kingdom was under, and to trust her. Perhaps it's a flaw in me, but I still see that child and holding that thing that she loves too dear, and I'm afraid that her kingdom will be crushed by too much love.
There's a part of you that does not want peace in this land.
Ooh.
Mm-hmm.
Why are you attached to the war? I think that's exactly it. I think that I left the Storm Kingdom to find someone to lead the Storm Kingdom. Because at the end of the day, our main enemy has not been defeated. I would rather our enemy to be defeated than not. I'm also sort of interested in becoming a general and like leading armies. And so that's why I'm attached to the war, because I want to win it.
What makes the queen beautiful in your eyes? The queen has never missed our walking arrangements. She takes me to the gardens where there are smells of all sorts. She takes me on a hunt where I can stretch my legs and feel flesh under my teeth. She asks me for nothing, but I give her everything. What makes her beautiful is everything she offers, from a word to a touch to a subtle action, and she accepts everything in return.
When was the last time the queen hurt you?
Oh.
It was at a party. So we occasionally have these grand soirees. Lots of music, lots of costumes, fireworks, the whole shebang. I had prepared something special. I wanted to introduce a new dance to the court because I'd heard of this hot new dance in some of the other kingdoms. This year, she'd sort of scaled it down, the party, because the war was kind of kicking up a little bit. So I thought, well, why not just, scale it back up a little bit? So I invited a bunch of people and I taught everyone this new dance and I made this big spectacle of it. I thought that she would be happy that I found a way to make the party big again. She wasn't. She was as angry as I've ever seen her. She didn't even thank me. I went and I found her afterwards and she said, "How can you be so thoughtless as to flaunt your wealth at a time like this? How dare you put your own vanity before the suffering of our people?" And maybe she was right, but it was a very painful thing to hear.
What did you bring with you that endangers the queen? The Storm Kingdom is powerful. They've already made an incursion into our land, and darkness is already spreading. It may be best to bend the knee. And I'm afraid our queen is strong. She'll stand in the light. And I've brought terms of surrender that only
Wow.
need a stamp.
The queen is under attack.
Oh, no.
Do you defend her? Of course I do. I love her. Of course I defend her. As we're attacked by Storm Kingdom, undead creatures and monsters.
So
Totally.
how does the attack go down?
I think
what's-
that's it. Undead rise from the ground around us. Demons start swooping in on us with bat wings. It goes full on nightmare. I go down swinging as the case may be. Or using what little storm power I may possess of my own to turn away these creatures.
I smell it coming before anybody else. The stench of death in the air. And I bark. And I bark and I bark. My lady knows to trust my judgment and to trust my nose. She places her hands on me, and I feel light as a feather. And I go and I chase down everything I can get my teeth in. And I can chase things like you wouldn't believe. I can fly. I don't know if I have wings, but I see a demon 10 feet up, 20 feet up, and I leap to it and I tear its throat out. My teeth feel good. My teeth feel stronger than ever. My lady loves me back, I can tell. I tear things limb from limb. I am covered in ghastly smells. But I will defend my queen.
Yes, of course. Yes, obviously. I pull out my sword, and I never noticed it back home, but here it seems to glow a little bit. It has a brightness to it. It's such a whirlwind. She has a sword herself. She's also defending herself, and hers is so bright. It's like beam of sunlight through clouds. Mine is not quite that bright, but it gets the job done. And I am able to slice my way through waves and waves of demons and creatures. I'm worried at first because none of them seem to be killing blows. Once I notice out of the corner of my eye, one of the creatures is just barely nicked on what might be a shoulder. The wound vibrates and sizzles, and the creature seems to fracture like porcelain. And from the wound, it bursts into a cascade of glittering light. Every creature that she and I touch with our swords bursts similarly.
It feels like we fought for days. A ball of light in the center of darkness, wave after wave. And exhausted, I watched the first of the ladies at arms fall, and I turn back and I see the weariness, and I start to feel the weight of my own arm and the weight of the weapon in my hand that I hadn't noticed for however many hours that we've been fighting. And I look out and another wave is on the horizon. More darkness swarms. I ring the sword on the breastplate and a peal goes out and my lady's arms stand. I order the queen back to fall back as me and the guards women that I lead push forward against the last wave.
Did we live?
I think everyone made it on that way, except for maybe John's character.
Yeah, maybe the ladies.
The ladies
at arms.
Oh,
ladies at
man.
arms, I
Captain.
don't think made
Can
it.
I
Nugget makes it.
Nugget makes it.
With that, our story ends. We will return again with a new tale to spin to dare to entertain. Stick around. We're going to have the second bit of our interview, our conversation with Alex Roberts, the designer for the Queen, and we'll kind of let people know as we have more of those in the future. I was one of your players, John Holt. You can find me on Twitter at Lord Joho and on Instagram at board_ghost. Ken, where can people find you?
Board Ghosts, find me on Twitter at Berlingsbeard, Berlings Beard, and my website of the same name.
I'm Tim Rodriguez. You can find me on Twitter at Dice Food Lodging, or you can find me on the interwebs at GalileoGames.com.
I'm Zelma. You can find me at Z for Zelma on Twitter and Instagram, and getting better at Twitter every day. Come talk to me.
All right. So to learn more about the engine and players in our story, go visit us at boardghost.com. You can find us on Twitter at BoardGhostWorld. Find us on iTunes, all your listening portals. Tell people about the show. Tell people about these great games, and keep an eye on our Twitter because we'll let people know too when For the Queen is out.
That's
Because
right.
people should pick up this game.
It's a
So
great
good.
game.
All right. So we'd like to thank Pat Couples for our theme song and interlude music. You can find more about Pat at patcouples.tumblr.com or on his band's website, hotelsandhighways.com. If you're not alone in the void, share our stories. The more they are consumed, the truer they become.
Why do you design games? Like, what draws you to this?
There's probably bad reasons, right? Maybe I want people's attention and approval or something, or I want status or something. Probably all of that is operating. So I don't want to deny that possibility. I've made other stuff. I like drawing, I like writing, but my experience of making games and the whole playtesting process especially is that you can make something and then you can give it to people and you can really see how you made them feel in a really extended way. I've made this comparison before, but when you tell a really good joke and people laugh, it's just a good feeling. And so if you design a game, it's you kind of told the joke, but also you're watching them tell the joke and they keep enjoying it for 2 hours at a time sometimes. That's so satisfying. And a lot of it does have to do with, the aims of accessibility that I have in my games, because games have brought me so much joy, and play is such a wonderful, satisfying thing for me. If I can bring that to other people, that's great. And if I can bring that to other people who didn't think that it was for them, that is awesome. That feels like the best thing in the world. That is the sort of purest, most beautiful reason, but I'm sure it's a whole fruit cocktail of reasons, both troubling and noble.
Ken was noting that he saw people, a group of 21 people, Ken, playing For the Queen.
Yeah, in an academic setting, I don't know if you saw this as well, Alex. Sean Nittner retweeted somebody who was like, we played For the Queen on an academic setting in a classroom with 21 people.
Is it sort of interesting to see people fracture and play with your game outside of its container?
It's beyond interesting. It's mind-blowing. Tamara Grants has played so many different versions of For the Queen. They did that one where they were all jogging. They jogged however many miles, and they were playing while they were running, and it was a group. It was Run for the Queen or something. I am pretty firm, relatively speaking, about a 6-player limit on that game. To see other people just ignore that and have a really positive experience. If they have a negative experience, I can be like, well, I told you. But if they have a positive experience because they're doing it, deliberately and with intention and creatively, yeah, that's pretty cool, to be honest. Like, that's really awesome. That's pretty special. And yeah, Sean Nittner went and ran for the Queen with a classroom of people. That's a huge honor. Starcrossed has also been in a college classroom, just talking about narrative design and romance. I mean, I'm a big nerd, and I want to be in the academy, and that's definitely more on the like just raw validation side of the spectrum.
Yeah.
We're obviously seeing that your second game now hasn't even released yet and is already being played, at least on one podcast, and obviously in many other digital platforms. Do you feel an impact on your design or on this experience specifically for the Queen as opposed to Starcrossed in terms of the digital options that are out there?
I hope that it hasn't. I hope that it doesn't influence what I want to make, what I want to publish, and what I think can sell, and all that jazz. It's smart to think about that kind of thing. But if I had been making Starcrossed and thinking, this tower thing is really fun, but I should really be thinking about people playing digitally and doing something else, it would be such a different game. Even though Starcrossed can be played online, Garrett Reininghaus and Jen Martin have a wonderful actual play with slightly modified rules that seems to work really well, and they had a wonderful experience. So it can be done, but I think the better way to play is face-to-face with a Jenga tower if you can. That is the, Starcrossed experience, and other things are hacks of that experience. I really like the way that tabletop games can bring people together face-to-face. Just as someone who tries not to spend too much time in front of the screen, I have complicated feelings about it because I know on the other hand, like I know it's the difference between gaming and not gaming for a lot of people. So like, not going to say anything ill about it. For both cases, online play has been a pleasant surprise. Like I never thought about whether or not you could or could not play for the Queen online. It was just something that I made. And in fact, what I liked about it was that it was just a deck of cards that I could keep in my purse, bust out whenever people wanted to play. I guess I think about form factor, but I also just try in general not to think about practicalities when I'm designing. I try to just like make the thing I'm trying to make and figure out whatever it is I'm trying to figure out by making it. Because it's just not fruitful. Like you're never going to make enough money making independent role-playing games to really make it worth your while. So why bother getting yourself all like twisted about, is the market going to really accept this one? Is this going to be more profitable than that way? Like none of it's going to be that profitable. So you should probably just make the thing that you're into. And if there is something about digital play that does inspire you and that you do think, hey, I play a lot of online role-playing games. I bet if I made one that was kind of like this, that would really like take advantage of the medium. Heck yeah, go for it.
And I guess too, it's that question of, do you play for accessibility in terms of even just being able to download and print or whatever the PDF of the game versus having to have the ephemera, even if you have to seek it out yourself. What is that balance of, I want people to have artifacts and have the physical experience. They can just get the whole game and experience it in person, which is important, but doing it from a digital copy of the game that they can get, or is it something where they're going to have this physical thing? And so, I'm not arguing either way. I'm interested in that sort of like, okay, when we're factoring in these issues, not even from a publication standpoint, but from an experience that I want someone to have, like it's very important for you to have that Jenga tower. So it's going to be there.
Yeah.
But someone could say, well, I excised this and I found a workaround for my game that could have had that same mechanic, but it was really important for me to have a pay what you want digital copy of this game because I want a million billion people to see it.
Yeah, definitely. When I think about accessibility, like that's why we have a very affordable PDF version of Starcross so that you can, beg, borrow, or steal a tower somewhere. I love off-brand towers. I play with them a lot. And then, print out the PDF at your local library or whatever, and you can do it up. That is really important to me. Accessibility means different things to different people, right? So for some people, having a PDF or even ideally an EPUB where they can make font size really big is an accessibility thing. And then for other people, it's like playing something where I don't need a computer and a good internet connection is more
Yeah.
accessible, right? Because not everybody has fancy computers and good internet connections. Like accessibility is about making things available in as many kind of like different ways as possible, I really think, and just seeing if there are barriers and trying to like knock them down. That's such a broad topic too. There's so many different kinds of accessibility.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about it almost as access versus artifact. People can see your game before they can buy it. I mean, I've played your game online with Sean Nittner, through Twitch when you were designing this game.
Mhm.
Did the physical artifact sort of factor in for you in a big way?
Yes, in a big way, to the max, extremely. Once I got dice and tower out of the way, not only did I just have a deck of index cards, I put that little deck of index cards, or like maybe 50 of them tops, into this really lovely little like change purse that I had, like a clutch. And it was this burgundy kind of velveteenish material that was sort of embroidered with roses. And I put them in there specifically. When I pulled out that particular little thing, like it just started to tell people stuff about what the game might be about, perhaps because I was pulling it out very dramatically. So I was thinking about that, and I was thinking about this like extremely feminine improvised packaging that wasn't a briefcase, that is somehow gives people a different message than a briefcase, and that it wasn't a book that anybody had to read and then we could play. Really thinking about what appears to be the simplest, least intimidating object. I found that putting something that what didn't have a board and it didn't have dice and it didn't have little pieces and it didn't have little tokens and little summary cards next to like that was literally just obviously handwritten with like some parts scratched out and written over, sharpied on index cards. It really seemed to put people at ease. Oh, okay, it's just that. Like I said, I was playtesting it with people who had not role played before. And so when they saw that, they were like, oh, okay, cool. I don't know why that materially is less intimidating than, a book and a board and some character sheets and whatever, some minis. And I know some people really love those things, get super stoked on those things, but there was something about that, like I said, when I realized what I was looking for and what I could get with this design, that was part of it. That was a piece of it. If I had brought it to a publisher and they had said, okay, cool game, but we really want to make sure that we get, a 300-page hardcover, perfect bound book. Let's get these cards like way, way, way bigger. We'll put it in a big metal case. I have no idea. That would not have worked. It would not sit right with me.
Even if there was like a lightning bolt font on Queen, huh? Like, wow, the Queen! Like they're all roadies.
Yeah, can you believe that no one has done that yet? To my knowledge, get in touch if you have done for the Queen. So something about the simplicity of it and how it was achieving the particular goals that I started to have after I started working on the game.
What's kind of next for you in design, or what's brewing?
There's two things that are taking my attention right now. One of them is called Little Town, a game that I have been working on with LARP writer Sean Roski, who made Last Item on the Agenda that won the Civic Games contest a few years ago. And it is a game about being a tiny, cute little animal in a tiny, cute little village that has tiny, cute little problems that you try to get some tiny, cute little solutions to. When it works, it's so sweet. It's so adorable. People have such a sweet time and they become so endeared with their own characters and each other. And it's working right now about 75% of the time. And we cannot figure out what is happening that other 25% of the time and why it doesn't always work. And it's absolutely maddening. So that's been a fun thing. It was originally based on Javier Beltran's Let's Be Dinosaurs, which is really, really fun LARP if you ever get a chance to play it. I think it won a Golden Cobra award a few years ago. It's really, really sweet. So anyways, that kind of started as the basis. We wanted to make something that was for like a very kind of soon upcoming event. So we slightly altered that, and then we found it so much fun that we were like, okay, but let's also change this and this and this and this and this. So now it's kind of its own beast. So that will continue to go through many iterations. And the other thing that I just kind of not finished, but finished a very confident first draft of is a game that I have been wanting to make for literally years. I had the good fortune of being at the Mount Kaz Renegade Art Space in Corvallis, Oregon for the past 2 weeks. I got invited to just come be the artist in residence, which basically means live in their spare bedroom and chill out. which was wonderful. It was so awesome. I had such a good time just allowing myself to take the time to just work on games. And they invited some people over and we played this game that I've been making called Pop, which is about the people who love balloons. They love them very, very, very much. They do love them in a sexual way, but they also sometimes love them in ways that are beyond that, in ways that are even greater than you or I could love a person, I think. And they go online and talk to each other about it. And they really want to get along. They really want to support each other and give each other tips on balloon care and where to find all the coolest ones and which brands are high quality. And also, we all want to feel less alone and less weird in the universe. And so it's a beautiful community, but also they can't stop arguing with each other. And they just are at each other's throats constantly over whether or not you should pop a balloon and whether or not you should do this and whether or not this is okay. And God, I just want them to get along. And sometimes they really don't. They're a lot better than the last time I checked in on them because I do check in on this community periodically. I first learned about them as a teen. So I have been wanting to make a LARP about them where you are online somehow and you are balloon fetishists, but it's not about having sex with balloons. It's about trying to get along when you have something in common, but not everything in common. That's something I've been wanting to make, but just have never really kind of devoted myself to it for any amount of time. But I did. And some people came over and they played it, and it was so good. It ruled. Like, it just hit it just like a beautiful, majestic bell that rang loud and clear. I was so happy with how it went. And it's so frustrating because, like, when I describe Littletown to people, a lot of people are like, oh, that sounds so sweet and so adorable. I want to play so bad. And I'm like, not yet, not yet. But when I tell people about Pop, they're like, oh, that's nice. Like, nobody wants to play Pop. But the people that I had even at Mount Kaz were, my two hosts, people who run the space, who were very kind, Albert and Christina. I will never repay my debt. And then there was one person who was like, I would never have played this game except that it's at Mount Kaz and I trust you guys, so I'm here. And there was one guy who was just like a little bit like me going to that first game of Fiasco, I think. He had just always wanted to LARP and he really loved games and wanted to play them more. So he was like, I'm just going to do it. And then there was one girl who did not really get from the event description that it was going to be about people who have sex with balloons. And yet she was like, well, I'm here. I'm going to do it. So that's my kind of woman to just be like, okay, this is where I am in life. But that's not promising in terms of getting more people to play it. So it may be a very special con exclusive. And even then, maybe not every con that I go to. If you ever see me in person and you want to play Pop, I'll see. We'll see what we can do. Yeah.
I'm down.
I wanted to go out maybe with something a little bit more philosophical, John, Alex. And your podcast backstory has been described as this like historical record of this period of LARP and story game design that's happening. Based on just what you've been doing now over the past few years, your reflections, do you have any inclinations of where things in our sort of gaming community or this gaming scene are going to go from? Where they're going to go to from here, and any place you're interested to see them go to?
I really wonder about that because often things kind of like expand and then retract. And so I wonder if we will be able to maintain the level of growth that the community is experiencing. I want the answer to be yes. And I think that in order for that to happen, we cannot look at industry growth as the measure of success because that's not what that is. We could continue to have very modest success for the games that we publish. You could even have fewer games published and we could still be growing as a community and we could still be growing in the ways that we play. There has been this period where like people like me can get a game up there and it's weird and it's queer and it's extremely specific in terms of what the game wants to do and people will still be very supportive and play it and get excited about it. That may continue. It also may not. Like at some point we may hit some kind of bubble or there may be other economic things going on. That means we don't have as many kind of big Kickstarter success indie publishing stories. That would be unfortunate, but also might be fine. That is not the only thing that I want to happen. What I want to happen is more people playing and having fun and treating each other well. That is really a totally separate thing. Something that I also really hope that happens is with the number of people who are playing Dungeons and Dragons right now, I hope that as that those people can diversify their play in a way that the rest of the community and like indie snobs like me and you can can like embrace and get really excited about, knowing that some people who play D&D probably feel about it the way that I did, which is like, this is a fun time with friends, but if there was another game that was a little more geared towards the things that I'm interested in, I would probably have more fun with that. And there are also probably lots of people who are just like, D&D, hell yeah. And then there are lots of people who are going to be like, yeah, remember that time around like 2020-ish when like we all played D&D? Yeah, that was like kind of a weird fad. Okay, cool, we got to accept that too.
Before they put on their VR LARP headsets and get going.
Yeah. Oh yeah, the future is LARP for sure. So yeah, so keep stoking communities at play, just as much as you like materially support game makers. Keep playing with different kinds of people, expanding the kinds of people who you're willing to play with. If you don't think that you ever could play with your dad or your grandma, I don't know, maybe approach it differently. You know, if you don't think you can play with your classroom or your coworkers, I don't know, I did it. So come at me. I think that the future is definitely more diverse in terms of who's playing, and probably more diverse in terms of the kinds of games that are played. The only way for that innovation to keep happening, I think, is to keep opening the doors wider and wider and wider to who can play. Once that is allowed to happen, then we will continue to have these kinds of amazing, beautiful new waves all the time.
Yeah, I mean, I took away you want everyone to sort of be disillusioned by standard tabletop games so that they come crawling to the oasis that is story game, right? and then we'll reintroduce them to our versions of classic crunchy gaming.
Yes, a place with no problems and always good play.
I have so many more questions. I'm sure we could talk for a whole nother hour. Thank you so much, Alex. This is
100% my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me on.
Where in the world should people go looking for you and for your games?
The best thing to do is go to helloalexroberts.com. That's where I try to post regularly about stuff that I'm up to. Follow me on Twitter and find backstory through that. You can also go to oneshotpodcast.com to find the podcast. You can also go to bullypulpitgames.com if you want to know more about Starcrossed, Evil Hat Productions, if you want to find out about For the Queen.
Yeah, we'll have links to all this great stuff on the website and on the show notes.
Okay, good. Wonderful.
Alex, again, thank you so much for coming on. It was a
yeah,
pleasure.
really appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
'Cause Diane don't agree with me, no. 'Cause Diane don't agree with me.